one of the best examples is, I live off the Santa Fe Trail now. And so I can go up the Santa Fe Trail, up the SoPac, and then over onto the Ridgewood Trail. And there is a splash park right next to a rec center. And so if you are a family and you want to take your kid to go to there, you don't even have to get in your car ever. You can take the trail. And then, down the road from that or down the trail from that is Glencoe. And then you go across 75 and there's the Katy Trail. And so there's all these different things that really are connected already, but people don't know that because we've done a really bad job of tying them together in space. And that's what the wayfinding program is really going to do. It's going to be more like a subway map.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that way you're not having to focus on, well, what road am I next to? It's going to be, well, what park am I next to? What green space or public asset? Because I think that's what's going to make, our tagline is connecting Dallas to Dallas. And it's not just physical.
Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary.
Welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. Today we're excited to have a longtime friend on the show. Philip Haigh is with us today. He's the executive director of The Loop Dallas. Thanks for coming on the show, Philip.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And welcome back. It's been fun, man. We've got to know you for a few years and seeing you work on all this stuff. But we're excited for you to be on it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I was a member of Wax Space back
I was gonna say,
2021, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah. You were walking up over here, biking over here.
It's good to have you back in the physical building for a little bit.
Yeah.
So, speaking of back in those days, how did you first discover Oak Cliff? How'd you get connected to this place, and then how did you kind of land up at Wax that year?
So I'm a Dallas native. Grew up in the suburbs, and then went to grad school at SMU. But when I came back here professionally as an adult, I was drawn to Oak Cliff because I had some friends that lived outside of Bishop Arts,
Nice.
and it was just such a walkable and bikeable area. There was a really strong and thriving bike-friendly Oak Cliff group.
Yeah.
And they had like scavenger hunts. There was like a photo scavenger hunt back in the day.
That's awesome.
And so there was just such a strong community around, community and pedestrian life that when the opportunity came, I was able to move here actually right down the street. And have a house in Oak Cliff for a while in Elmwood.
That's awesome, man.
Man, I think there's such a strong community that's still here in Oak Cliff. I think of our friends in Elmwood who will take the dart right here to downtown and then ride their bike into the city. And I love that that's
Andrew only takes a bike. Yeah.
That's true.
You're just like, oh, they're dedicated too.
He is. But before the Loop, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, what got you interested in trails and bike trails and that kind of walkability in the first place? How did you get attracted to that idea?
That's a great question. I don't talk about that as often because, but it's a really formative part of my life was, so after undergrad, I joined AmeriCorps. And so I was serving the country with nonprofits and governments based across mainly the Pacific Northwest. And so ended up in some cities that had a lot of walkability. And when I was stationed in San Francisco, I bought my first road bike. And that was the first opportunity I ever had to ride a bike from my front door across the Golden Gate Bridge. I went to Sausalito.
Amazing.
And had fish tacos. And that was just such a crazy experience because I'd never...
From my doorstep to that. Yeah.
I'd never had that, being from Dallas and, going to school in Lubbock. You weren't riding your bike to go have lunch somewhere incredible and then riding back. And that just changed my entire perspective on what I wanted out of life, what you could experience. And so that just became a central part of my personal life that I pursued it. I lived in DC after that, didn't even have a car. So, went to these areas where that became a part of my lifestyle.
Yeah.
So then when I moved back to Dallas, I was doing government affairs. So I worked for and with elected officials and was just doing the biking and pedestrian things personally. Cool. And so then when the opportunity came, 10 years into being back in Dallas to run this organization, I jumped at the opportunity because this is something that Dallas really needs, and that we have a lot of great trails, but they weren't connected. And so, it's like, how do you use this as part of your day-to-day life? That lifestyle that I really wanted and lived in these other places, it's very close, but it's not quite there yet. Yeah. And so it's like, how do you actually bring this to more people and more communities so that everybody can have access to something like that?
I relate to that story. We do a ton of biking, but I remember us getting on road bikes, going down the Trinity River, and then going back down to Beckley and getting some like cinnamon toast at.
Oh, nice.
It was just like one of those moments where you're like, oh, I can explore the city and go do things. And it just is
it's freeing in a city like Dallas, where it's like Dallas,
it's
better
so
or worse,
car-centric.
Has that reputation. I mean, or at least Texas in general. It's such a big state. It's almost inconceivable. Whoa, you got to own a car to get from here to there. Yeah. But I think it's kind of interesting.
There's a joy to that. Like, I feel like that's
Well, it's interesting too, because I think. Man, I love that you had a moment where you're like, "This is
fish tacos across the Golden Gate." That's pretty good, man. That's an awesome moment.
Yeah, that life can look different. You don't have to do it that way, and that you committed to that. And I'm sure it takes commitment too. But in Dallas, let's talk about Dallas, because Dallas has, like you said, extensive trails, and it needed to close the gap on connecting those trails. But even Dallas as just a place, when did you start to see that it could become something more than just a car city?
Well, I think so. I remember the first time I rode down the Santa Fe Trail when it first opened. I was living up in the Village in grad school.
Didn't we all, man?
Yeah, right. It's like another one of those Dallas things. Everybody spent some time in the Village.
You got a few years
I missed the Village, but almost everybody I know stayed there for a minute.
Dude.
So. It's a very different village now than it was.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
but
they upgraded.
They upgraded, dude. So I was riding down, and I just remember thinking, like, I have no idea where I am.
Yeah.
And because I'd only driven to Deep Ellum previously. I'd never ridden a bike through there. And then all of a sudden you end up, and you're like, oh, I know exactly where I am. And so that moment, those types of moments where you're exploring and you're like, I don't exactly know where I am. And then all of a sudden you end up somewhere new and you're going, oh, but this is something familiar now.
Right.
And I got here by trail, without getting into a car and like closing yourself off. And so those kind of experiences told me like, oh, this is a thing that we can continue to bring across to these new areas that people aren't familiar with. It doesn't just have to be, hey, let's go to the bar district of Deep Ellum or the restaurant district. It's like, oh, there's also this nature in between, and there are these parks that you can experience.
It's actually disorienting. Like you said, like I think there is. I remember doing White Rock Lake and then going up to like maybe Northwest Highway or something, like going on some trail. And I remember being like, where the hell am I? I kind of was like, I don't know where this trail, but then I you find something familiar. You're like, and where the hell am I in a good way? Like you're like going through just wooded areas and past, and all of a sudden you're next to a park and you're next to this coffee shop or whatever. But it was disorienting. I remember that, like in a fun way too. So
I think it brings like a sense of adventure to life that I think that a lot of people haven't experienced yet. That we're really excited that more and more people are getting onto the trails and being exposed to them.
Yes,
because there are some projects south of I-30 that are existing today that if you were to go on them, you would be like blown away.
Yeah,
you just go, I had no idea this existed. And that this could be Dallas. And, there's rivers, there's water. I mean, there's nature in a way, and you can still see downtown in the distance.
It's awesome.
It's incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. So,
okay. So maybe landing us a little bit in this, the Loop Dallas.
Yes,
you're the executive director for that. What is the Loop Dallas? I know we're kind of leading up to some of this, but tell us what it is and how you've been leading it for several years now.
Yeah, 7 years. So the Loop Dallas is a public-private partnership. So that means that we are a nonprofit, and we have a legal agreement with the city of Dallas to build trails on their behalf.
Cool. Got it.
And so this is the same type of agreement that a lot of our other peer organizations have, like Clyde Warren and Halpern Park, where we design, engineer, build, and then the city owns the asset. And the reason why that works really well is because you get to drive forward these projects and bring together a lot of different partners, but then the public owns it, so it's available to everybody forever. And so, when we came up with this idea, it was that the trail system was really fragmented. And we had these really great trails that were opening, most famous of which is the Katy Trail.
Sure.
But that's the best example. You go down to the end of the Katy Trail and the Victory Park, and it just ends.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but the Trinity's right over there.
You just keep going.
Yeah, just keep going. But but there's a highway, there's railroads, there's all these things.
Sure.
And so, the board came together, my board came together and said, well, we want to connect this system and make something that's like a catalyst project for Dallas.
Cool.
And so the city had a master plan that they had basically built out what they could, and they were needing private sector leadership in order to finish out the system. And so we selected a 50-mile loop, and 39 miles of trails had already been built. And so if we just built 11 missing miles in 4 strategic places around the city, then that would make a 50-mile continuous loop that leveraged the existing investments. And so that way you get to tie into the success of the Katy Trail and the Santa Fe and the SOPAC and the Trinity Forest Trail.
Yeah.
You're just bringing them all together, though, with a continuous shared public asset. And so that's what we started out with in 2019 when I joined, was that idea and some, it was a good amount of money, but 43 million.
Yeah.
And since then, we've now pushed that to over 115 million secured, which is just really incredible. And it shows that there's a lot of support for this type of asset.
It's neat to see that the city's committed to that and that you have a plan too. Like it's
it's thought out.
We need 11 more miles.
Yeah.
We're not trying to rebuild everything. We're just trying to complete the loop.
Yeah.
That's really neat.
I remember hearing or seeing those, dude, you were all over the press, 50-mile loop. I remember seeing like the 50-mile thing. It was just it was digestible to me. Like, I know it made a lot of headlines, but it was like cool to see like, hey, that's the problem. Like, that's the goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And,
you needed a vision that people could understand that would make it. I mean, because I think that to your point about being disoriented, the reason why that's a really important symbol, especially a loop, is that you may not know where you are in that exact space, but if you keep going in the same direction, you're going to end up back where you started 50 miles later.
Yeah.
And so
cool.
it becomes it becomes a fixed place in your mind.
It's a helpful, it's a helpful framework, and it also just feels like a, even practically, it just makes sense. It's like you don't want to end up at the end of a trail and be like, well, I got off the trail. I don't know how to get back.
Right, and out and back.
I'm in Oklahoma now. I got to somehow get back.
Right.
And I think my favorite part about it is that, so much of our, placemaking in Dallas is based around roads.
Yeah.
It's like, I know 635 and all the other interstates. And so instead, we're going to be saying, like, well, what's the fixed place that's around people? Like the things that people actually do, not based on cars.
Dude, that's so interesting. We were just talking to a friend and a new friend about which way is north. Like when we're standing, like we're literally just sitting right here. We're like, where's north?
Yeah.
I got owned by this question earlier. They all 4 found like, Grant, which way is north? And I pointed like it's east, maybe. I don't know. I was nowhere close.
But he was one of the guys was from Brazil, and he was talking about how he always orients himself when he's down there, I guess, to the water, or like people are like, it's like a landmark. And so even us, it's like, hey, roads are, but he was even saying it's hard with roads in Dallas because they're kind of, just not always the grid system of sorts. But I think there's some truth to this when you're like exploring or orienting yourself, like what are those landmarks or what are those things that kind of help me know the city and stuff. So
and I think that's one of the things that's really going to change the identity of Dallas with the creation of the loop is that you will be able to place make these landmarks that are accessible to the public. And so the Trinity Forest Spine Trail, which is our most recent project to go to construction.
Okay.
It connects White Rock Lake in the north to the Trinity River Audubon Center in the south.
Yes.
And so, we actually just started changing that rhetoric because in the past, everybody wanted to say we're connecting to the Trinity Forest.
Yeah.
But what is the Trinity Forest for most people? It's nothing.
It's hard to understand.
Huge
what
area.
that
it's
is.
a huge area. People don't go there.
Right.
Like, what do you experience?
It's maybe scary. Like a forest, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Is there anything around me?
Right. And so we're identifying like, well, people know the Audubon Center.
Of course.
That building is iconic. The architecture's great.
Yep.
You can go there and have an experience.
Yes.
And so, we're saying, okay, we're going to tie together these cultural landmarks now.
That's awesome.
So that way you can start to say, oh, yes, this now makes sense to me and it's relevant to my day-to-day life.
Yeah,
that's the important thing.
Cool.
Oh, I love it. It again, just anchoring for somebody when you're trying to explain a massive project like this. It's like, hey, you know where White Rock Lake is.
Yeah.
You know where Trinity Audubon Center is. When you think about this, because recently I think there was an approval for phase 3 of the project. I want to get into this because I feel like this is an important milestone for the Loop Dallas. So,
to hear that.
So what does that look like? What does that mean?
I think this is my most important professional milestone, honestly, because so the Trinity Forest Spine Trail, as I mentioned, it's 9 miles between the Audubon Center and White Rock Lake. And in order to build that many miles of trails, we had to split it up into multiple phases. And so that ended up becoming a 5-phase project. Okay. And so phase 3 that was just awarded construction, so that means we're going to be building the next phase of this project here in just a matter of weeks. That was the keystone project because it's directly in the middle of between White Rock and the Audubon Center. And it also includes Parkdale Lake, which is a huge new park that nobody's ever been to. And this was the key piece of how do we make this right-of-way connection between these two assets in the north and in the south. And so unlike a park where you have a defined boundary, so if you think about like Clyde Warren, you know where the boundary is. It's frontage roads, highway, you know exactly where it is. A trail, though, you can move that back and forth depending on how you're getting through the next piece of land. And so securing the right-of-way was the hardest part of this section, and Parkdale was the key of that. Because we have to cross White Rock Creek in order to get to the other side of Parkdale. And then there's also a railroad track that separates the other side of it. And so we had to figure out, how do you cross the railroad? How do you cross this creek? And so this, at the beginning of last year, we finally resolved all of the right-of-way. And that allowed us to finish the engineering of the project.
I see.
And so the engineering was completed at the end of last year, and then we went out for public procurement. So the city of Dallas is actually managing the construction of this project. So when we say $16 million, that's directly into construction, so hard costs.
Nice.
Which is the reason why the public has been so supportive is because all the money or most of the money that we're raising goes directly into the creation of these assets.
Dude, Philip, congrats, man. That's awesome.
Congratulations, and thank you for doing that.
That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Man, well, it reminds me even a little bit too. I just saw the other day that Texas State is putting out new state parks, and it's like we're gonna be getting new state. It's really fun seeing that like access coming. And so you're talking about that lake that a lot of people have just never been to.
What is
you're kind of bringing
lake?
Access to it. It's awesome, man. It's really. Way to go, Texas. Way to go, Dallas. It's some fun stuff happening with that.
It's pretty incredible. So I definitely recommend checking out our Instagram. We have some videos of Parkdale Lake. And so this was a cooling reservoir.
Oh, wow.
So it means that back in the early 1950s, when there was a steam power plant on White Rock Creek. This is crazy. There was a steam power plant, and the power company built a reservoir in case the plant overheated and they needed emergency water.
Got it.
It was never used, though. They never had an emergency. They never needed to use it. And so they just had a big lake sitting there for 70 years. And when Encore ended up acquiring that piece of property I think it was like the late 2000s, they decided that was not part of their strategic plan, like as a power provider. But they just had it. And they didn't have a reason to get rid of it. And so when we started early conversations with them back in 2019, we determined pretty quickly that this was something that they would be able to donate to the city of Dallas to become part of the trail system.
That's awesome, man.
And
really cool.
that lake is incredibly pristine. It's unbelievably natural. Like the trees have grown up all around it. The water level has receded quite a bit because it was being pumped in previously. And so now they don't have to do that because it's not a reservoir anymore. And so now what you're seeing is this much more natural habitat. Cool. And the trail will actually be the only access to Parkdale Lake.
That's wild.
That's pretty cool.
Unbelievable.
It's a crazy thing to think about.
It's
like every other lake I can imagine is like you can drive right up to it.
Right. And it's gonna be really unique. Because the other thing that's incredible about this is a mind-blowing thing when we were talking about it with Encore. This is the largest urban parkland dedication in city history. So what that means is that there is not another 115-acre parcel in all of Dallas that you could donate to turn into parks.
That could be even donated.
So in the future, if you have a park that's that big, you're going to have to tear something down and create a new green space. this was the last piece of existing green space that was that close to Dallas.
In Dallas.
And you helped facilitate
urban
this.
Dallas.
Yeah,
urban Dallas. There's some
okay.
stuff down south.
Okay.
Trust for Public Land did a great job with
keep
Big
doing
Cedar.
that. Yeah. Okay.
But that's, that's on the very perimeter. This lake is actually closer to downtown than White Rock.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah.
Man, I can't wait.
I know. You're like
wait.
hyping me up. I can't wait to ride my bike over there.
But hey, we're talking about Dallas too much.
Yeah,
This is like,
Let's bring this back
This is
to the
Oak
real.
Cliff. We got to bring it back to how's this connect to Oak Cliff in some ways? Because I mean, dude, we love Dallas.
Well,
but
yeah, and
I
think
wanna,
about Oak Cliff has so many of these sort of transportation anchors where you've got the streetcar.
No,
you've
I
got
just
the history of that. And
I know.
the
I'm
trails
just
around
directing us back to how does it connect?
It's a great segue, Doug.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Oak Cliff. So really, how does Oak Cliff then, as you think about the 50-mile loop and the connections here, how does it fit into this? Because I think the mentality of Oak Cliff really embraces this kind of idea. But how does it fit in physically, otherwise?
So I think that's a really great point. Oak Cliff historically has not really wanted to be connected to Dallas at large.
Yeah.
That was intentional through planning. And that's why you really only have the most established trail is the Coombs Creek Trail in Kessler. And so if you look at the master plans that the city had approved in the past, there weren't connections south into the heart of Oak Cliff.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the big missed opportunities that I see is that when you're looking forward, the plans for tying the rest of Oak Cliff into this trail system need to be, re-upped. There needs to be a new effort to figure out, well, what is the way to do that? Because right now, Coombs Creek is actually going south into more of Oak Cliff, but there are some it's going to be really difficult because Oak Cliff is so built out. This is such a dense area already.
Yeah.
There are not a lot of abandoned railroads or anything like that. Although there is the Chalk Hill Trail, which is coming soon.
Okay. Yes.
Finally, many years
I
after
know.
it's been. But I think that most of Oak Cliff that's going to be benefiting from the loop is over on the east side of 35.
Oh, nice.
And so there are actually a ton of connections into Oak Cliff on that side where you're looking at the Trinity, where the Trinity River runs, where the levees have stopped.
Right.
The best connection is right by Paul Quinn.
Okay.
And then there's up at the 8th and Corinth Dart Station is another huge trailhead.
Oh, nice.
And then also Cedar Crest, as you go across, right before it goes across the river and turns into MLK. And so what we're looking at now is leading the city to help build those connections to the west.
Cool.
So that way, we have this eastern edge.
Yeah.
But how do you bring it into the rest of Oak Cliff?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we don't have enough meat around it yet, but we had some early conversations with April Allen.
Very cool.
And Halpern Park.
Makes total sense.
And so how do you connect Halpern Park to the loop? And we have a preliminary idea. I don't know when we're going to be able to...
landmarks, right?
Yeah.
Like when you start to be like, well, what am I going to or where am I around?
You can bike to Halpern on the loop.
Yeah.
That's an easy
Tyler Station
anchor.
at the Elmwood Trail.
Yeah, that's true.
I know.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, because right now you can get from this exact location where we are, down to Keys Park and be on a trail the entire time.
It's true,
I know.
It's a great, the connection right there is fantastic.
It's awesome.
I've loved getting to use it and explore it.
And in the future soon, Trust for Public Land, who's one of our partners, and they office a couple doors down from us.
Oh, cool.
They're working on the 5 Mile Creek project, which is a huge trail. It's 20 miles that runs along the southern edge. 5 Mile Creek is 5 miles from downtown.
Isn't that crazy?
That's why it's called 5 Mile
Creek.
Creek.
There's 10 Mile Creek too. If you keep
10
going.
Mile Creek. Yeah, exactly.
Real creative.
Yeah, exactly.
I love the naming.
Very geographical.
I imagine a settler coming in being like, oh, 5 Mile Creek. Here we are.
5 miles. 5 mile marker. All right.
5 miles to go still.
5 miles to go still.
That's exactly right. So they're building, they're working on that right now, and we're going to be helping them kind of work through some of the challenges that we've already had to figure out, like how do you cross highways, railroads.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so that's already in the works, and it'll be, I think they're going to construction on their first project before too long.
Okay, so your job's not done just because you got this funding.
Yeah, exactly.
You're you got a little bit of...
We still have 2 miles left to build.
Okay.
In the 50-mile system. And so those are going to go to construction at the end of next year.
And where are those 2 miles? Are they in the same area, or are they all over the place?
So they're in the same area, so that's the last 2 miles of that 9 mile connection. And so one of them is a 1,200-foot bridge that we're building over the railroad. Yeah.
Awesome.
That's how that works.
That's how
you go over.
I
was kind of wondering.
How do you get across our tracks? You build a giant bridge over us.
Yeah.
And so
fascinating.
If you know the North Haven Bridge that goes over 75,
yes, of course.
We're building a structure of the exact same size in the middle of Southeast Dallas.
Wait, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So fully funded already. We got a TechStart award last year for $14 million.
Wow,
that's awesome.
And so that is to build the bridge that will go over the railroad and land on the bank of Parkdale Lake. And that is actually a missing piece of the phase that's going to construction right now.
Okay.
We had to pull the bridge out of it because it was so expensive.
Yeah.
We needed a separate project to design and engineer and then fund it. So the phase that just went to construction, that $16 million, is for 2 segments on either side of Parkdale Lake. Cool. One's tying into the bottom, and the other one stops short in Dolphin Heights, which is right outside of Fair Park.
Okay, so like how the Loop Dallas, is it just you? Is it a big team? Is it like are you raising the funds for all this? Are you writing these grants? Like, how is this thing sounds amazing.
How does it work?
How does it work?
Yeah, Loop Dallas is awesome.
Let me just tell you all the secret sauce here.
Yeah.
So I've been I was the first employee and was running it by myself with a great team of consultants. And then since then we've expanded. We now have 3 full-time staff.
Nice. Awesome.
Which is incredible. We're working on building out our programming on the Loop. So figuring out what other types of activations do we want to have on the trails.
Okay.
And then the other person that I hired is a landscape architect to help us, design, build standards, things like that for our other projects. And then each of our projects, our construction projects, has a specific design firm that we've hired based on the constraints of those areas. So one of our projects that opened last year, the Haigh connector, so that connects the Katy Trail to the design district. We used the same firm that had done most of the Katy Trail.
Oh, cool.
So it's SWA Group.
Makes total sense.
Yeah, and it was like they know how to build in urban areas, like that character.
Yeah.
Whereas, we used a civil engineer to build the project that's under construction on Sylvan right now.
Oh, okay.
Because that one didn't need to have the same landscaping environment. It's all concrete.
So just you and a bunch of consultants. That's why he was doing so many Zoom calls out here. Just like
Philip was running around. He had a lot to do on his own.
Army of consultants.
So, man, that's awesome.
Philip, I just find your job so interesting, and I'm sure you stare at maps of Dallas a lot. I'm sure you look at a lot of things. When you look at a map of Dallas, what is something that you see that most people usually miss? And maybe that has to do with trails. Maybe that just has to do with the way that it looks and works. But is there something that you see in Dallas that maybe most people wouldn't see right away when they look at
that's an awesome question, because that's something I'm thinking about a lot right now.
Yeah.
Especially as our projects start to come online. Like, what does this mean for you as a user?
Right.
And so the answer is that one of my previous job right before this was working at the Dallas Regional Chamber. And so we were the organization that was trying to bring businesses here. And I remember going through the exercise with the Amazon proposals when they were looking for a second headquarters.
Yep.
And the same thing when Boeing chose Chicago over Dallas. The idea was that Dallas didn't have enough green space. And that was a thing that these companies were dinging us for and saying, oh, well, that's a strike against you.
Straight up economic impact right there that you can tie to.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, I don't think that's correct.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that there actually is a lot of green space, but the problem is it doesn't feel very accessible.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people have their own favorite park or their favorite trail, but it's not necessarily a trail that they feel like, or a park that is accessible to other people or that people visiting would think of.
Right.
And so when I'm looking at maps right now, and we're actually about to start a wayfinding program, this is one of the things that the landscape architect is going to be managing, is tying together these landmarks in a way that makes it feel much more accessible.
Yeah.
Because one of the best examples is, I live off the Santa Fe Trail now. And so I can go up the Santa Fe Trail, up the SOPAC, and then over onto the Ridgewood Trail, and there is a splash park right next to a rec center. And so if you are a family and you want to take your kid to go there, you don't even have to get in your car ever.
Yeah. Take the trail.
You can take the trail. And then, down the road from that, or down the trail from that, is Glencoe. And then you go across 75 and there's the Katy Trail. And so there's all these different things that really are connected already.
Yeah.
But people don't know that because we've done a really bad job of tying them together in space. And that's what the wayfinding program is really going to do. It's going to be more like a subway map.
Yeah, that's cool.
So that way you're not having to focus on, well, what road am I next to? It's going to be, well, what park am I next to? What green space or public asset because I think that's what's going to make, our tagline is connecting Dallas to Dallas. And it's not just physical.
Yeah.
It's wayfinding, it's branding, it's education.
A lot of, it sounds like a lot of education. Yeah. What I hear you saying is like, no, we have green space and we have good spaces. We just haven't really conveyed that well.
Right.
And we haven't connected them well.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to think about in that way because people don't do that as part of their day-to-day.
Sure.
I was actually meeting the guy, I wish I remember his name. He runs a tea company in Deep Vellum.
Oh, okay.
In the shop, he was
awesome.
Putting together tea,
yeah,
and I just Will Evans introduced me, and I said, "Oh, are you a trail guy?" And he was like, "No, but I just walk on the Santa Fe Trail a mile every day." Oh. I was like, "Wait, that sounds like a total trail guy."
You are
out of all the Dallas.
Yeah, he goes, "Well, I don't run. I don't ride my bike." And I go, "Well, I think that's one of our. He's my target audience. That kind of person where it's like you don't have to be a trail guy.
Yeah.
But how do you want to use this?
Well, man, I've talked with Jared Huerta about wayfinding along this little Elmwood Trail, so we should connect afterwards. But no, it's just like, hey, it's only a mile or whatever, but it's like there's food up this way, downtown Elmwood. You've got like Tyler Station over here. It's like educating people the usage and even the creek that's there. There's a natural element that's kind of fun to think through. But man, that's awesome. I feel like wayfinding. I always think of Highline, obviously, in New York. It's just like, it's so important to make it feel accessible to and to educate people along it. So that's exciting.
It's something we've been thinking about for a long time, and now is the right moment to do it. Now that we have enough projects open, now we can actually begin that program where it's going to be, there's enough trails connected to make this work.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Oh, it's super cool. And so, well, I was going to ask, when you look 25 years down the road, the Loop project is complete in the sense that it's you've maybe connected the loop, but you're doing other projects. Who knows? What is it that you see for Dallas as a city? 25, 30, 50 years down the road, based on the work and the education you're doing now.
I think that's also a really great question, because I really like to project ahead and see what is it that we're wanting to accomplish with these projects. You know, it's not just, hey, we're building concrete.
Yeah.
It's what is that concrete going to change in this city? And the number one thing it is for me is transportation options, so mobility options. Right now when you get out of your car, or when you get out of your front door, for most people, the only way to get to their destination is car. There are some really hardcore transit folks, but it's inconvenient. And so, the goal that we have is, when you walk out your front door, you have 5 different ways to get to where you want to go, like you would in DC, San Francisco, New York. And, thinking about how Dallas is where we're going, cars should be the least attractive in 25 years.
Yeah.
That you should be taking these other modes of transportation that are more efficient, that will get you there faster.
Compete with cars. Like
overcompete.
Overcompete with cars. Yeah,
because and the reason why I say that is not because cars made us successful to where we are today. Our roadway infrastructure did.
Yeah, that's how America was built.
Yeah, and that's why Dallas was so successful, is because we had a great transportation system for cars. But that's not the future when you think about how many people are moving here.
Right.
And if we are building roads, which is what we're doing today, to compete with all the growth in the suburbs, you will never win.
Yeah.
Every time you go out to a suburb, there's a new master plan community, and they just keep growing and growing, and the metro is getting bigger and bigger, which is great. But if we're trying to accommodate those people coming in and out of Dallas, then that's the wrong battle. Like that is not a way that is going to help our city, our people. We need to, make those other transportation options more attractive.
That's what I say, like overcompete against the cars, where you're kind of, it'd be awesome to be like, I'm going to take a streetcar down Jefferson, or I'm going to go on the dart or a bike or
and
a walk.
You think
or
in those terms.
That it's not always just car.
Yeah. Because I love the idea of like, those options will have to overcompete in order for people to mass adopt it, because they're always going to reach for their car keys if they think that's the easiest way, until there's some pressure against that. And all of a sudden, this other option is better.
And I think it needs to be faster, a 25-year style plan, because this can't just happen overnight, because then it would just be chaos.
Sure.
It needs to be a transition that is intentional. And that's the thing that's most exciting, is that the loop is going to be done in 3 years.
That's amazing.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, oh, wow, this is happening.
50 years, loops done, 3 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it's, so it's like, okay, well, 50 miles. Yeah. So it's like, okay, this is done. How are we going to use this as part of that mobility system?
That's cool.
And that I think is going to be one of the first big dominoes, because if you were to ask me like
in that story.
Yeah, in that story, because like right now I would say that we don't have as a city a premier bike lane.
Right.
If you're going to ask me where's the safest place to ride my bike on the street, I'd say don't.
Yeah.
Go on a trail.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true, man.
Man, I hear that. I think that's true.
We're making some strides, but we're not there yet.
And
they just adopted a bike plan.
Yeah.
It's being implemented, so I'm hopeful. But right now, it's not the...
No, I mean...
Are those problems that the loop will eventually take on once the 50-mile loop project is finished? I guess the Loop Dallas, meaning the organization. Or is that something that is a 3 years down the road? We're going to focus on what we've got in front of us, and then we'll figure out what we need to do then.
We're focused on the 50 miles and the trail construction portion. Obviously, we're a stakeholder in those conversations because... the biggest reason that we are involved, aside from just the expertise of building, multimodal transportation projects, is you can't get to all the trails, via foot or bike.
Right.
So like a trail doesn't come to your front door.
Yeah.
And so how do you get from your house to a trail? It's going to be a sidewalk or the street or a bike lane, something like that. And so we really want those options to be safer.
Yeah.
But I think if you are looking at trying to scale bike lanes in the way that we need to, you need the city to run with it.
Yeah. And see the economic impacts.
And figure out how to build them too, because like
it's a huge project.
Yeah. The plan that they just passed, if they're using their current implementation mechanisms, it's too expensive. It takes too long. It's too expensive. So they need to find some new ways to implement that would be less expensive. And there's models that are out there. They just haven't adopted them yet.
I see.
Yeah.
And it would allow you to build it. Because right now, the plan that they approved last year would take 30 years to implement. And it's just like, well, that tells me this isn't really a plan yet.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
30 years means nothing to me as a person who's building projects.
Too long of an amount of time.
Yeah. Because you lose too much momentum. You lose the safety impacts. You lose
too much change in 30 years.
Yeah.
Too. You have to be more concentrated with that kind of project.
100%.
Yeah.
So, for those of us in Oak Cliff, what's some of the best ways to experience the trails now? I know I've gone down to the Trinity River, and there's some nice trails that are going there. Does that connect? Does any of so what are... Yeah, for people who want to follow along but be a part of this, what are some of those ways they can do it?
Yeah, so the Trinity River trails, or it's called the Trinity Forest Trail, and then the Trinity Skyline Trail. Those are the two that are directly connected to Oak Cliff right now.
Yeah, cool.
And there are different access points that you can find them on our website.
Cool.
theloopdallas.org.
Let's go.
Loopdallas.org.
Yeah. I love it.
Nice.
And our Instagram has, like I said, a lot of really good places that you can find. We even did a series that's called My Dallas Trail Story.
Oh, cool.
That was focused on different ways that people can use the trails today, because they're always asking, well, how do I do the loop?
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to give you wrong information or misinformation based on like what your skill level is or what your interest is. And so we have profiled a lot of different types of uses.
Cool.
And we also have like a GPS file that shows them, okay, well, I walked 2 miles and it took this amount of time, or I rode my bike for 15 miles and it took this amount of time.
Yeah.
And so you can get to the Trinity Forest Trails down by Paul Quinn.
Cool.
It's, the McComas Bluff Preserve as well.
Yeah.
Super scenic, really natural. The Skyline Trail in the levees, I would recommend doing that either as we're getting into the summer, early morning or later at night, because it is totally exposed.
Yeah.
But it's a really cool way to see.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
There's right now there's like 1 million Mexican hats blooming alongside, and it looks incredible. It's like, this is unbelievable that this
I think
is
we
right
have
here.
some bald eagles down there too.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
I've seen bald eagles, and I've also seen Caracara.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, out there, which was pretty incredible.
Awesome. Nature.
I
Dallas.
love it.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah, we have it.
Yeah.
We have it.
Well, Philip, thanks for all your work. Thanks for coming on the show. Keep it up. We're excited to go hop on the loop one of these days soon.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend, and thanks so much for tuning in.